record this. Great. So welcome everybody, and appreciate your willingness to be a little bit nimble and flexible. This call today was actually supposed to be the graphic facilitation call, but as I was thinking about kind of what I was hearing and reflecting upon, decided to postpone that. And in lieu of that, we're doing this call today where we're going to be sharing with you some different opportunities. So I'm going to just kind of kick us off, and then we'll have Andy speak to the Health Data Ambassador opportunity that's come forward. And then Catherine Johnson is going to be sharing a couple of items, and then I will be sharing a couple of items. And please, if you have any questions along the way, please either use your chat box or speak up. And then yesterday, I actually sent a document for you. So that is some additional information. So I just wanted to kick us off with the Learning Lab objectives for the Accelerator sites. And why I'm sharing this with you is the two red items that I've highlighted are part of the objectives is to really learn what your needs are and to help facilitate. Some of you have very individual needs, and some there are themes across all of you. And so part of how we're operating is we want to facilitate and broker opportunities, and also looking at other funding opportunities. So I think today is an example of where we're going to be doing that with you. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and then I'm going to pass this over to Andy.
Great. I'll get my screen all going. Hold on one second.
Hey, Andy, can you leave it during my slides too? I just, if I'm supposed to be sharing my screen, I'm not queued up.
I can share your slides, Catherine.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. Can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Good. All right. We'll dive in then. Yeah, so I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking with all of you about a new initiative that is part of this work, for which the California Endowment basically has provided funding. We're just finishing up the contracting. So in essence, this will begin next month. This happens to be an initiative that is of deep interest as well to the California Health Agency, so the state itself. So it's a nice way to connect their work with your work. So I'm going to dive into some of the details, but I want to encourage you to just interrupt me at any time with questions and such. So this is about data storytelling, what this initiative will be about. It'll last about a year, could be even a bit longer than that. And the way we think of this is leveraging your data for the kind of local engagement that you want to do. And one way that I think of this is a quote that I had heard an epidemiologist who was sort of thinking about data storytelling, and she said to me, this is in San Diego County, she said the hardest thing for a data person to do is to speak English. And the second hardest thing for that data person to do is to write in English. And I think her point was a fair one, I mean, that sometimes that work of crossing that bridge between data and communication can be really difficult. And so that's in essence what we're going to be doing here. So in essence, when you think about it, all of you are doing really crucial work to improve the health and well-being in your community. And as part of this, you want to marshal data to understand the nature of a problem, to inform a next steps, to educate, or persuade others to take action. And when you think about some of the actions that you may want to take by leveraging data, it could be things like raising community awareness of a pressing issue, or advocating for a policy solution or a change in practice among organizations providing services. Of course, you might want to use data to encourage more resources and funding, or even influence maybe behavioral change in your community of some sort. So those are the kinds of things, and depending on your goals, there may be an array of audiences that you want to reach. It could be the whole community, or maybe even like 5 individuals, like the board of supervisors, that can influence or enact the kind of change you're looking for. And from what I've seen, if you're like many of the communities that I've worked with on this across the country, you likely are expending significant energy on the data front on things like deciding on measures. That's often will take a bit of time to do. And then you need to find the sources and obtain the data, and that's often no easy task. And then you need to massage or reformat the data sets, or maybe sometimes even just understand what the data sets are all about. Again, not an easy task. And then you need to analyze the findings. And as a result, you may have little left in your tank for anything that we might equate with visualizing results, communication or engagement. Those kinds of activities, what I've found often are, sort of given short shrift. So that's what we want to address through this. When you think about it, this is sort of what we're talking about here, is that the fact that data don't speak for themselves, and they really need you to give them a compelling voice that will encourage others to perhaps take notice, maybe even take action. How we communicate findings, that is what we choose to say, how we say it, how it looks on a page. It can matter greatly in terms of transforming your facts into impact. And so let me show you one example of that, of what this could look like. This was a story that was created, a data story. Let me run through it pretty quickly. The health department in San Luis Obispo County created it about an issue that they faced there, which is falls among seniors. And in this case, as you can see, they gathered together some very poignant photos. They gathered that with some quotes. When I fell, my whole world changed. They integrated some data. So this all is one package of information. And in this case, this was quite successful. They were able to use this story to persuade the local board of supervisors to provide more funding for a fall prevention program. And sure, that the data were persuasive in and of themselves. That's, they spent a lot of their energy on that, but so was the presentation, and that had a lot to do with it. So to help address this, let me get back to my slides. To help address this need to communicate data effectively, the California Endowment, like I mentioned, has funded basically community partners to implement a data storytelling program for the CACHI communities. And my organization, Valir, will be carrying out this program. The intent, in essence, is kind of to nurture your capacity to communicate data effectively. Because while it's not like a skill that's, I guess, innate to many of us, it certainly can be taught. And that's what we're going to be spending our time doing for this. So there are going to be elements of this program that's going to be available to all of the communities. So not just you, it's going to be, both, basically all 15 communities. And I'm going to dive into more details on each of these, and the attachment that Sue sent last week, or yesterday, I should say, provides those same details. But this is a quick overview, and like I say, I'm going to, in a moment, I'm going to, dive into each of these so that you can really get a good grasp of them. But before I do, I thought I'd just share a bit more both about Valir and my experience in this space, so you can have a bit of context for that. So first, I guess me, I'm based here in California. I live in the Bay Area, and I've spent a good portion of my career, the past 15 years or so, helping communities leverage data. My background, my initial background is in journalism, a journalist in DC. So communication is really important to me. but I started out, some of you may be familiar with the website kidsdata.org, and I kind of think of that as my baby in some respects. I managed that, launched that for the Lucille Packard Foundation, so worked on that for 10 years. And the part that I think I enjoyed the most was really rolling up my sleeves and working with the communities to understand how they want to use health data or data about child well-being, and learned a lot from that. I then spent 4 or 5 years at the California Healthcare Foundation managing their open data initiative, where we worked very closely with the state of California and also with local health departments to help them tell stories with data and encourage them to make data more accessible. And after that, spent a year at a data storytelling platform, Live Stories. Again, got really, into the weeds about how challenging some of this work can be. So I'm now at Valier. I've been at Valier for about the past 9 months or so, but I've worked with Valier for a very long time. Valier is a digital agency who happens to have a lot of expertise and have done a great bit of work in the data visualization space. So they build a lot of data websites, including kidsdata.org, that's how I got to know them, or Kids Count, or the Dartmouth Atlas. We also work with organizations like AARP, the World Bank, the World Health Organization. So a lot of organizations, or the Commonwealth Fund, that are wanting to use data to create effective and meaningful data visualizations. Now, a lot of our partners have the resources to create very custom data interactives or data query tools, like kidsdata.org. And that's not what this will be about, but we are as interested in helping our clients, or in this case, you guys, we want to teach you guys to fish. We want all of you to be really good communicators of data, and that's what this is really about. So that's what this program is about. And let me now go through some of the details. I'm going to basically be going off of, what was sent yesterday. Let me get back up here. So here's what's going to be available to all of the communities through this program. And so there's nothing you will need to do to access these, or nothing you need to tell us, at least initially. I'll get more into the nuts and bolts of next steps momentarily. But first of all, we're going to supply you through this program a 1-year subscription to a data visualization, data storytelling platform. I mentioned Live Stories. Many of you may have heard of or already engaged with Live Stories. We'll look at that as, as one of the options. I think it's a likely candidate. But we're also going to look at some other tools. At my company, Valier, we have a good grasp of a lot of the tools that are out there and what may be good for you guys to use. We don't necessarily need to pick one tool, and there may be a set of you that want one tool and a set of you that want another tool. That's what we're going to be doing prior to selecting the platform. As we say here, we want to first hear about your needs, and that will help us evaluate which platform will work best. Whatever platform we use, we're going to make sure that includes technical support from the software vendor. So initial training, on-call support. So the technical support that goes probably above and beyond the communication type support that I'll be providing. So that's one element that all communities will have access to. And then in addition, we're going to provide probably amount to probably about 14 months of one-on-one data storytelling coaching with me, and maybe others on our Valier staff. And this monthly coaching, as I say here, it can encompass things like, recommending methods for obtaining input from users, tips on how you can visualize your data effectively, ideas for how you can incorporate storytelling elements, like, quotes or photos in what you do, reviewing data findings with you to help determine messaging that could work, ideas regarding outreach. So this is basically me working with you one-on-one on a monthly basis, providing this kind of coaching. And then we list here an additional hour of time, roughly speaking, so that, myself or others can do some of the initial prep work before the meetings. You know, maybe it's reviewing data sets, maybe it's editing a fact sheet or a data story. You know, doing research that you might need us to do about how others have approached an issue, that kind of stuff. So there's those coaching elements. That's going to be one-on-one. We're going to do some webinars. We have a lot of ideas for webinars. You know, we could talk about some of the data tools that are out there. I've already talked to some organizations that are doing specific work here in California that have great data tools that they may want to just sort of share them with you so you know what's out there. We also could have, you know, I've done a presentation before on lessons that I've learned on communicating data in California. And so I thought it'd be fun to run that through with you so you can, you know, hear some of what I've learned. I've learned it the hard way. Maybe it can be things you can learn more easily. We also, you know, kind of on this topic of webinars and TA, we want to have what I think of as story swap meets. You know, have a few of these. So the idea there is that there'll be some of you who will be presenting, you know, maybe a story, a data story that you will have created, and others can take a look at that and learn from it and ask questions. I've done this before when I was at Live Stories with a community, a group of communities that are like this, A Million Healthier Lives. And it proved effective. People really were very into the concept of seeing what others were building and learning from that. So we're thinking webinars roughly every 2 months, thereabouts, and offering you the opportunity to learn from others and learn from each other. And the last thing that I'll mention that I list here is collaboration with state officials. As I mentioned at the top, I mean, the state is very eager to be involved in this. And they want to provide access, for example, to a platform that they use, the 1849 Collaborative, which in essence is a platform that we could use. We don't have to, but we could very well use it. It was built in mind with allowing communities of individuals to share and ask questions about data. So it could be an online tool that helps us in that regard. And even separate from that, and the one way that will be helpful for the state is that they can then observe and see what's going on and learn from you. But there could be other ways that we also involve you in the state's work. Before I dive into some of the specifics of a more intensive offering, which is what we're calling the Data Ambassador program, I thought I'd just pause and see if you have any questions about any of that I just mentioned. And like I said, I'll get into the nuts and bolts of what you'll need to do as next steps, or what I'll need to do as next steps. But any questions first about any of what I just shared?
And you can also put it in the chat box if you'd like for any questions.
Sure. And if you don't know, if you don't right now have an idea exactly of what your questions may be, which is understandable, it's downloading a lot of information. I get that. You know, you certainly can follow up. You know, so no problem at all there.
So, Andy, I just wanted to tag, because later I'm going to be sharing about the survey research group opportunity and where they're going to, for those sites that are interested, offer the development of a logic model and identification of short-term indicators, which, you know, depending upon, you know, what people choose or not choose, might be really helpful for the data visualization so that they'll have that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we definitely want this to be tightly integrated with the ways in which you currently are going through your processes, you know, so there'll be a lot of work that we'll be doing on our end, me working with Sue, for example, to understand that we can integrate this effectively, so it doesn't feel like an add-on. You know, we want it to feel like it's a embellishment to really help you effectively communicate your stories so that you can transform the data to local impact. So let me talk a little bit about this Data Ambassador program, and I listed here as in addition, because the Data Ambassador program, everyone's going to get what I just mentioned, but I'll go through these bullets, but first let me give you a broader overview. The notion behind the Data Ambassador program is we want to provide an opportunity for a smaller group of communities to do a deeper dive. So we're going to focus through this on articulating the nature of a problem that data storytelling can help solve, understanding the audiences and their needs that you're trying to reach, obtaining the constituent feedback to give voice to and help you iterate on solutions. And I guess once built, conducting the outreach that you'll need to conduct. It could be community meetings or email or social media, to ensure that what you've created is not only, I guess, useful, but also used. And what you build, I guess, it could take multiple forms. It could be a digital or printed fact sheet on a pressing topic. It could be a data-oriented presentation that you may deliver to your community, like at in-person meetings. Maybe a series of stories or via videos or photos that also integrate data, kind of like the one I showed you from San Luis Obispo. Or it could be something else entirely that springs from the imagination of you and your community partners. So the idea is that through it all, as an ambassador community, you'll be sharing what you're doing and what you're learning in a concerted way with a number of individuals. First, of course, other CACHI communities. That's important. Secondly, with the state's health agency, I think they're going to be particularly interested in what's doing with these ambassador communities, and we'll probably get to know more concretely about the work of these ambassador communities. And also perhaps maybe even more broadly, for example, through blog posts you could write, maybe what you'll be doing could inform similar work taking place nationally with other ACH communities. So given the deeper dive here, we will be providing a stipend for this. Basically think of it as compensating for your involvement. The actual dollar amount is likely to some degree dependent on how many organizations we choose as data ambassador communities. We're anticipating that will be between 4 and 6, but figure probably about $15,000 for a stipend, and that can be for a backbone or non-backbone organization. That's for a year's worth of work. We anticipate, it's hard to have like the exact estimate, but we anticipate that it should be about 10 to 15 hours a month of work. So you'll get that. You're going to get deeper access to state health officials, joining them for meetings and presentations. You'll get additional data storytelling coaching from me and others at Valir as well. I mentioned basically the equivalent of 2 hours for all communities. We'll add an additional 2 hours because of the needs that you guys may face for this. That will be there for you. So I mentioned a little bit about this, but the responsibilities for this is, we probably want you to have a dedicated staff person if you're in the Data Ambassador program, and that staff person is probably something to the tune of 10 to 15 hours a month. We'll probably expect you to guide the development of a local data storytelling project. I gave you a few examples earlier, and I can provide some other examples too. This is going to involve leading community convenings or other opportunities to obtain input, and participation in the TA opportunities. I mentioned some of those above. These could be just the webinars. They'll be either monthly or every other month. It could be, for example, that at the Story Swap meets, it's mostly the ambassador communities that are showing what they're doing, or we at least look to them first to do that. I mean, in some ways, the elements of the ambassador program that I'm describing here are really similar to the overarching program. They're not so much different from them. It's just more involved and with perhaps more of an expectation of tangible creation of a data product that you can use. And this idea of an ambassador program, it's not new. It's similar to a program that the California Healthcare Foundation, when I was there, funded with the state of the state's health agency to help help them with their open data program that had launched. And so one goal there, as it is now, is kind of to help build a bridge so that the state can actively learn from what's taking place locally. And I'll just share with you quickly a few examples. Let me get to them. Here we go. Of what was done in those communities, because it really took multiple forms. So I'm showing part of a blog post here. In Fresno County, the folks who are leading this ambassador program had the really good idea of inviting down the state health officials. And so the Undersecretary of Health came, folks from various departments, CDPH and OSPD, and they gave them a tour of Fresno, you know, starting in certain areas. And in this case, we looked at a playground and the community work that's taking place to improve a playground that's near some factories. And they ended the tour by giving us, in essence, a data map presentation of the community. So it's kind of a really neat way to mingle the two together. Also through this, you know, this is an example of a presentation that was created using some data from CDPH. And it's very much a data presentation. You know, as you can see, this is about, I should have mentioned, we're looking at asthma. And the data from CDPH were available by zip code. So it's an example of the kind of community level presentation that you could make available and potentially build for this. This one's a little more involved, you know, but you know, just sort of giving you the idea. It also included an interactive map. Some of the communities put on codathons, health data codathons, you know, where they brought the communities together to, you know, especially programmers or frontline staff to really understand the issues and spend a weekend building solutions. So that's another way of coming at it. And if I should mention too, that the stipend that we're keeping in mind, that we have in mind, you know, that would also, you would need to fund, like, so say you wanted to have like a community gathering of some kind, you know, the food and the facilities and such would also come out of that, you know, stipend. And, you know, if you have questions, we can provide more details on that or any of how that stipend works. One of the communities, in this case was San Jose, they invited the folks from the state's health agency to come down and give a presentation about their data offerings. So that's another example of what you could do through the ambassador program. And in this case, the County of Fresno, the health department, at the time it was the epidemiologist there, Jared Rutledge, they came up to Sacramento and did a presentation, because although you can sometimes get people to come down to Sacramento from to where you are, it's sometimes easier, you get more people in the room if you can go up to Sacramento. So that's another example of, you know, what was done. And we have, you know, because we had already done this program once, we have, for example, a toolkit, you know, of how this data ambassador program could run. This isn't a list of instructions, it's a guide, you know, but we have some of these kinds of resources in place. So that's the background about the specifics for the data ambassador program. Let me get now to, let's take a look at some of the next steps. So this coming month, we are going to send to you a one-page application form. And if you want to, it's going to be a simple one, but if you want to participate in the ambassador program, you would fill that out. We'll choose the ambassador communities based on indication of interest and the resources available. It may not be possible to accept all communities that fill out that form. So, you know, keep in mind, everyone's going to get something. I talked earlier about what everyone's going to get. Others of you that are interested may also be able to participate in this ambassador program. We expect to choose the ambassador communities in April, and that program we think will commence in June, as I mentioned here. So separate from that, I'm also going to try and reach out to all of you individually in the next 3 to 4 weeks And so it'd be great if you can think through who on your end you'd want to involve in this work. Ideally, this data communication work. It could be someone who has experience with or even just interest in both data and communication. The initial call is twofold. I mentioned above that we'll be doing monthly coaching for people, all communities. So partly it's to start that monthly coaching, but it's also for me to gain intelligence about your needs, maybe ask about your data storytelling, data visualization platform needs. So we're going to begin that, in the next couple of weeks as well. So those are, broadly the next steps. I definitely want to leave time for questions that you guys have. We're very much still in the planning stages here. So what seems unclear, what doesn't feel quite addressed in the way you need it to. I want to learn from you about what, you need to know as we're building out some of the details here. You may give us, your insights may give us ideas, for example, on other things we should do. And I also list here my contact information. So if a question comes up that you didn't think of, just reach out to me. But let me stop there and see if any of you have any questions, either about how this works, why we're doing this, etc. Any questions?
Thanks so much, Andy. This was great.
Sure.
So questions from you all, anything that you're thinking about?
Okay. Like I say, write down my contact information. I'll be reaching out anyway to each of you, but let me know if you have any questions.
Mm-hmm. And I am recording this because I know that not everybody was able to join and have the slides. And so your contact information is on there. One thing maybe would be helpful just in terms of, since everyone is getting the data visualization tool, if maybe you could just speak a little bit about how you're envisioning that process of selection of a tool.
Yeah, absolutely. There are a number of tools out there. I think there probably are some communities. I don't know if the folks on the phone are examples of this.
Well, I think Napa, Jennifer, I think you guys are in the process. I know Fresno has it, Live Stories. Not sure about others, but anyway, yeah.
And certainly Live Stories is a tool that I'm very well acquainted with, having worked there for a year. But there are a number of other tools out there that could serve your needs. There's a new one called Flourish that is quite good. There's one that I've used a fair bit for my own work because it's just dead simple to use, called Infogram. I'll want to, use these initial calls I have with you to understand the kinds of needs you have. For example, if, one advantage of Live Stories over the other two I mentioned is that it comes with a library of data. They've preloaded in there data, for example, from the Census Bureau, the American Community Survey. They preloaded data in there, other federal data. I believe by now they probably have data from the state's health data portal. So that's one, ready-made advantage of it. And if that speaks to, we're going to want to access those kinds of data, then, well, maybe, that would be a good argument for doing that. If I hear instead that, you know what, I just going to need something that's going to be the simplest thing in the world to use, that may be an argument for Infogram. And there might be, we'll see, there might be an opportunity where some communities would use one and some communities would use two, and we learn from that which one's the best.
Might be an interesting test. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so we think, we basically, the program begins in March, next month, a couple days, I guess. But we think that access to the Data Viz tool will probably start in more the because it will be a one-year subscription, probably start in the May or June timeframe. We want to collect information first from you, get a sense of what you want to build. That may also help me determine it. And so probably that part begins in June and would last a year.
Okay.
Great. Anything else come up?
No, I don't think so. I got
one question from.
This is Kimberly. I'm not at a site. I work with Sue on resources and development. And I'm just wondering if like sites aren't totally clear about how they want to present data or what they want to present in terms of like using these tools. This is something you can help them with, right? With the coaching, to really further refine it.
Yeah. So let's say, a community has, I'll go back to I don't know if there's any communities that are doing work, for example, on asthma ED visits, but I showed that. The coaching that I provide may take the form of saying, okay, great. So let's think about the data that you have, and now let's think about who are you trying to reach with that, and it's sort of like, walking through the steps and okay, oh, you want to reach, and what venue are you going to reach them? I'll just share briefly with you. I was doing work both when I was at California Healthcare Foundation and at Live Stories with local opioid misuse initiative coalitions in California. And I remember I was meeting with folks in Mendocino County, and we had sort of presented and prepared this online report card that any county could use. And she mentioned to me, the person I was meeting with, she said, here's the thing, is a lot of the people I'm presenting to them in person. I'm going to community meetings for the Board of Supervisors, and I need something that feels like a presentation. And so that's the kind of conversation I could have with you guys that helps me understand. I think I see now how you might want to present this as like a presentation or an offline fact sheet, because we shouldn't necessarily assume that the way you're going to want to present the information is going to be online and that you're going to disseminate it online. I understand a lot of the work you're doing is very community driven.
Mm-hmm.
Does that help? Great.
Great. Okay, any other questions? And yeah, great.
Good. You got my contact information. I'll be reaching out too. Just reach out if you have any questions.
Great.
I'll stop my share now.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay. So now I'm going to go back to my slides. And so Catherine.
Yes.
Why is this not working? Can you guys see my slides? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. For some reason, there we go. Okay.
I feel like if we were in a hall together, I would ask everyone to stand up and jump around and kind of make sure that we're all here and active. So let's do it virtually.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you for participating. Okay. So I just wanted to talk about a couple of things that are separate but related. You're seeing on your slide a set of questions around business development, and it really leads with the question, if a funder were to come to your site tomorrow and say, you know what, we are really interested in supporting your work, what is it that you need? Would you be able to answer that question? And, sometimes those are small asks, so it's a $50,000 ask, or it's a $200,000 ask. It's, I think, a really useful for you to be able to answer that question, for one, but also from our perspective, there's a huge network effect, and that's what we're going to be talking about next as well, that we want to be able to leverage. So if we kind of know, conversations like what Andy just drove, we have a sense of what we think we want the groups to be doing and your work to be focused on. But what we also want to hear is, what are you wanting to focus on kind of in the immediate term and then maybe in the longer term? What resources do you need? What are you prioritizing for yourself that would drive some of your funding requests. And so you can see in this document, we just kind of laid out each category. You know, what if you wanted consulting services, what would they be for? What would the amount be? You know, is there program work that you need? You know, do you need anything that's capital related? You know, computers, anything like that. So we kind of have just laid out some pretty high level questions. And I think the author here is twofold. One is kind of give your gut reaction to where you think that you are in these places. And you can see on the top, or on the left-hand side, I've asked that you kind of prioritize what these asks are, give the amount, and then the description. Again, this is all very high level. And then the far right column is your confidence level. So yeah, we've thought a lot about this. We've talked about it, and we actually want to pursue this. That would be considered pretty confident. You know, no, I have no idea. I haven't really thought about this very much, but this is probably what my gut is saying today. That would be on the low confidence. And so again, what it's helping us do is figure out where you are in terms of your thinking around your business development needs. We're looking for synergy among you so that we can kind of create, again, some network effects. So if consistently, you know, the majority of you are asking for similar types of resources, that informs Sue in terms of what to support. But it's also something that we could leverage with group fundraising efforts. Because remember, there's a lot of folks and a lot of funders who are interested in supporting and seeing this work succeed. And so if we had a sense of what we could do collectively that would enhance the work, it would benefit all of us. And these sorts of questions would help. So the opportunity here, as framed by Sue here, is to provide support in your business development strategy. So this document, if you're interested in kind of receiving some technical assistance, you would just fill out, again, high level gut checks of where you think you are and what you need, and then just send it back to us, and we'll follow up with some individual one-on-one and see what resources we could offer, both from a fundraising perspective and a strategy perspective, individually and collectively. So I'm going to pause there and see if anyone has any comments.
Excuse me.
Can I ask, is anyone involved in fundraising right now for your group?
This is Sue in Fresno, and I am.
Do you have clarity in these categories?
It's actually something that's on my to-do list to sit down and think about, so I appreciate your form. Because I need to put a budget together for the next coming year.
Right. And so can I ask, is your fundraising more programmatic? Is it operational? And what category do you think that you're pursuing?
So it's more operational because we're developing our infrastructure primarily, and let's see, it's going to be more like computer, desktop. It's going to be just general operating, maybe maybe consulting. It depends. Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? You know, what this information also would help us is, you know, I'm doing development work with Sue right now, just kind of at her level programmatically. And, you know, I run into opportunities. And in fact, we've engaged Humboldt in one of the opportunities that we have run into, right? There are funding opportunities and granting opportunities. And the degree to which we know what you're working on, what you're interested in, what you would prioritize, it just gives us an opportunity to help and support what you're doing.
Mhm.
So if there's nothing else there, and it
Okay.
sounds like there may not be.
Great.
So the next opportunity is related but different. This is in response to your challenges, questions that you've been discussing around your communication needs. So we're hearing really clearly that there is a need to kind of manage your internal discussion within your group and maybe at the governance level, as well as an outreach effort to engage and be transparent with your stakeholders and with your community. And so what we are pursuing is a social networking platform that would serve both purposes. It would allow you to kind of have a project management, data storage, you know, kind of common workplace within your group, and also allow you to look externally to your stakeholder and your community and communicate with them, inviting them for opportunities. So what we're looking to do, we've engaged a group of funders that I think have expressed interest, and we want to pilot basically develop a proof of concept with you using a social networking platform that would be rolled out with your programs. So I'm just going through the what, why, and how, when. So the what is a technology platform that supports transparent internal governance meetings, as well as the external outreach. Why are we doing it? Because we're looking for effective collaboration that essentially strengthens your networks and your initiatives. We see that there are advantages in, I mean, I'm preaching to the choir here because you're all doing it, but you know, there's a network effect when you are able to mobilize and facilitate effective communication with the group. It is going to affect your fundraising, your efficiencies, both within your group and then among your groups. So intra communication among the sites. And there's power in numbers. And so if we can roll out a social networking platform that serves each of your programs, but also provides an opportunity for you to collectively share as a group, there's a lot of value there. So what we're suggesting is that you basically raise your hand if you are interested in participating in a coordinated rollout of a communication tool that's funded by CACHI program and that's supported by the program. And you just dedicate, we can talk about the resources. I think it really depends on the level of engagement. And really what you're using it now, because the hope would be that this is not an in addition to sort of tool, but this is the core of what you're doing and how you're communicating with your group.
It's part of your
Yeah,
ecosystem, right?
Say again?
I was just going to say it's part of that communication ecosystem.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, we know that you're using tools. I mean, even if it's a group email right now. So this is really just about trying to make what you're doing more effective through a social networking platform. So we are in a position to kind of get it launched in the next couple of months. We're just looking to see how many folks are interested in participating. And we can talk more about the tool itself and some of the functions. So I think probably as an outcome of this conversation, what we would appreciate is just raising the hand and saying, yes, I'm interested in hearing more. I'd be willing to participate in another conversation specifically on this topic where we will probably do a demo and you know, get you more engaged and more specific. And I can see we've already got one hand up. Thank you very much. I feel like
I know.
we're like a telethon call-in number.
That's yeah. QVC.
Yeah, exactly. And it does look like there's a lot of folks that aren't on the call though, right?
Yeah, there are some that are missing, and some people who participate don't always have the ability to talk. And so what I'm thinking that I will do, I'm going to just follow up because this is a lot of information, and you know, I'm going to share some more, and some people won't be interested in anything, and some people will be interested in one, and some people will be interested in more than one. I think, you know, so that's kind of what I'm thinking. I'll just follow up and let them know, you know, how they can let us know what they're interested in.
Yep, that sounds great. So the two pieces here are basically support in your fundraising efforts and your the use of a social networking platform.
Great. Okay. Are we ready? Any questions? Anything more on any of this? Okay. Okay, so let's see. I am going to actually, because for some reason, this is not, okay. I'm going to stop and share this with you all.
And Sue, while you're doing that, you know, Andy, I think there's a lot of, I'd like to talk to you offline if I could, and you get your thoughts on what we were just offering for social networking and how it might relate to some of the platforms that you were discussing. I just want to make sure we're synced up. Did he get off the phone?
No, he's still there.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So sorry, I'm gonna just do this first. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is share with you a little bit about the evaluation and kind of data piece of this. So I think that you're all aware of the survey research group, and we just completed a series of 4 web discussions. And so part of what was offered to you all was the core metric data. And so, you know, just to kind of recap, part of also what they're offering is structured group interviews, and we finished 8 out of 9 of those. That last one is going to be done in the month of March. So you're going to be receiving a summary report of that information from the structured group interviews. There were certainly individual pieces that came out of it, but there were themes that came out across that. On March 27th, there will be a funder meeting that I will be attending with the lead from the Catalyst site, and they, you know, they're going to get this information as well. You just were sent a partner survey, and we're asking for you to disseminate that out to your partners. And that is a baseline of information, you know, just to see, you know, how are people feeling about the partnership. The intent is to do that at the end of this, like, so towards the end of December, to see, you know, how that we're going to, actually, let me correct myself because it may not be December, it may be later. that will actually be done. So those are two things I just wanted to make sure that was really clear. And when I've used these partner surveys before, I think they're really helpful to get a sense, because they're anonymous, of how are people feeling about the partnership. And it's really becomes a tool for discussion with your members. And so, you know, you're going to get this, but the partner survey is aligned with the Catalyst sites. So they are also doing this as well. So there's going to be some cross looking at how are they doing, how are we doing, where's there some similarities. It's built off of the CACHI evaluation framework. So hopefully that's something that you're familiar with. But here is the link to that, and then you know, you can review that again. So again, this has gone out to you all, and hopefully you've sent it to your partners for them to complete. So the other piece of what we're offering is that each site, and again, this is just an offering, can work with the Accelerator sites to develop custom logic models, and that would be based on the evaluation framework. The next piece that they can also work with you on is the development or selection of short-term indicators to kind of help talk through. So again, as I was saying earlier, that's a nice kind of complement to what Andy is talking about, I think, in the health data ambassadors. And they are available, and I know some of you have used them for questions, you know, thought partners. They can help with a variety of data related needs. I mean, I know there was a question that came up most recently around IRB. So, you know, the Institutional Review Board. And PHI actually has an IRB board. So if there's anything, and as the PI for this project, and because we're offering that, if there's something that you feel like comes under IRB, they actually can provide that service as part of this. So any questions on this at all? Okay. So the next opportunity, so Kimberly is on the phone, Kimberly Elliott. So I've asked her, and then it just so happens that I have two students who've come forward because they're interested in gaining an internship experience, and they are from the University of San Diego, and they are obtaining a Master of Arts in Social Innovation. So they are focusing in on the intersection of work between public health and innovation. And they have really taken a deeper dive into the playbook and the curriculum, and they are really interested in building out different tools that we think might be really helpful. I think what I heard a lot from all of you at the very beginning of this is that you all wanted examples of a variety of different things. I think we're really looking at what kinds of concrete tools would be helpful for you that you could use as examples and replicate. So they are interested in working with a couple of sites to, you know, craft out different tools. We have lots of ideas that we've begun and they've begun, you know, to test them out and provide feedback. Kimberly, do you have anything you want to add on this at all?
I don't have anything right now. I'm just excited to be here, and I look forward to meeting those that want to reach out and connect and provide input on exactly what they want, so we can step up and support them in any way that feels generative.
Great. Great. Okay.
Sue, this is Sue in Fresno. Can you
Yes.
give us an example of a tool that you're thinking? I'm kind of getting.
Sure. Well, one of the things I've heard a lot from people is we want to develop a common language. But there isn't really great ways to do that. I think there's some really interesting ways. Like one of the things that we're playing around with is the development of a card deck, so that those could be used. I think we're going to probably do some kind of videos that might instruct people on how to do prototyping that's relevant to your work. And so these might be tools that you could use for yourselves, maybe as your leadership team or just individually, but also that you could use with your membership. And part of, I just want to make sure, the mode of action here is process to action. So we are using tools like what I've just described to get you to action. And in this case, your action is the development of those 7 elements, or at least the ones that you've identified. That's like as a minimum, right? So it's not just to play cards. There's something kind of behind that. And so I think, part of what we'd be really interested is, where are people stuck that they could use some things like this, that might help to move them in a different way.
Got it. Thank you.
Does that explain? Okay.
Yes,
And
thank
can I just piggyback on that, Sue?
Please.
I think the key thing that just struck me when you were speaking was just this idea of like, what's our intent? Why are we doing what we're doing? And, where are the areas where we're even getting stuck in why are we doing what we're doing? I think would be a great place to reflect on and to give us information about, because then, we can brainstorm and come up with tools or talk through and provide TA that really supports clarifying that and getting a little more granular with it, so that, whatever's happening, whether it's a meeting or an action or an engagement piece, it can really be like clear and effective, right? So it's not just like, oh, we're just doing all this stuff and it's not connecting or gelling.
Mm-hmm.
So we'd love to support in that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks, Kimberly. And I just want to reiterate, I know I've said this many times, but there is not a real toolkit on how to develop an ACH. So part of like the test, that I think the funders are really looking for is, in the tools that we've created and the examples, can that be replicated for other sites, that they could actually take these tools, take everything that we're doing, and if they didn't have funding, or they, had different funding, that they could be able to take this and kind of move forward in some productive way. So you guys are part of it.
Yeah, I want to throw in there, like, we're already seeing some great examples from the sites out there on the website. Like, that's been really helpful for me to start to understand, like, wow, this is, where they're at and what's happening. So thanks.
So just lastly, can you guys see this screen? Can you guys see a new slide?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this has been on the website. I shared this with you earlier, and I've made some updates to it. And so this just lists a variety of different other resources that are available, either at a limited support or supported. So I've, spoken about the data and evaluation. You've just heard from Andy around the health data. We're going to be attending the equity and diversity and inclusion training. Catherine just spoke of business development. One of the things that I'd love to hear your thoughts on is, I have some funds, not a lot, to support you. So, we're talking about prototyping, we're talking about, tool development. Maybe you have an idea about something, is putting out, not huge pots of money, but just something as a, just a little bit to help to support you, to help, to move that forward. Let's see, so then meeting design, there's payment and financing. So really trying to learn more. There's a couple of new web discussions. I'm working on a couple of more to really get some assistance around that. And then the visual communication, so the web discussion that was supposed to happen today, that's now happening, and I'm not remembering, but I sent it out. I think it's in April, where Giselle will be explaining about what graphic recording is. And for those people who are interested, offering up a graphic facilitation about either your work, just something that's important and relevant to you. So with that, this is a lot. I'm gonna make sure that I send out this information to you all. And, oh, Kimberly just said graphic facilitation is on April 19th, so thank you. And it's a lot to kind of ponder, you know, to kind of think about. And I don't know, Catherine or Andy, Kimberly, the folks who were speaking, if there's anything that you feel like you want to add, just, you know, with all of this, or?
Nothing for me, I think.
Okay. Great. Catherine? Catherine, did you have anything?
No, I just was saying there's a lot there, and I think, yeah, it's a nice, rich offering, and so hopefully they'll see something that resonates.
Just one, just maybe one, right? Great. So, so I will be sending out information to all of you, and you might need to ponder on it all, and you know, think about it. And please, if you have any questions just regarding any of this, please let me know, and we will get back to you.
Sounds great.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very
Okay.
helpful.
Bye.